This tutorial is about reading and graphing inequalities. In order to graph an inequality, we have to know what each of the signs mean. So the first sign we have is the greater than sign. And you notice from reading left to right that the larger part of the sign is what you see first. The less than sign is a sign that has a smaller side first, reading from left to right. In order to graph using greater than or less than, you have to use open circles. So to graph something that says something is greater than, if x is greater than a number, the open circle goes on the number, and x would be aligned to the right of that number. To graph a less than inequality, we use an open circle at the number, and then we draw a line to the left of that because x will represent something less than that number. And remember, less starts with the same letter as left. Then we have the next sign, and the next sign says greater than or equal to. Notice there is a line underneath the greater than or greater than sign. This is a half of an equal sign. That's how you know it's greater than or equal to. To graph this inequality, you have to use a closed circle because you're saying that all the values of x include the number itself. So we would use a closed circle, and then everything x is greater than or equal to that number. And the same thing for less than or equal to. It has a bar underneath the less than sign. That is a half of an equal sign. So we would graph that with a closed circle, and then we would draw a line because x represents the values less than that number. That's left. And up here, x would be greater than. Now we're going to practice writing inequalities. Follow along on page 11 of your booklet as I'm working on these problems. 57 is greater than x. So I'm going to start with writing 57. 57 is greater than x. X number 2 says x is less than or equal to. So x is less than or equal to negative 24. Number 6 says 6 is greater than x. So 6 is greater than x. Go ahead and pause the video and finish number 4 and 5 on your own and check back to see if you're correct. Okay, so negative 99 is less than x. Negative 99 is less than x. X is, number 5 said x is less than or equal to negative 15. X is less than or equal to negative 15. Go ahead and finish the rest of the page 11 for your classwork. Now let's graph some inequalities based on the signs that I showed you earlier. If we have a less than or equal to sign, we're going to use a closed circle. If we have a greater than or equal to sign, we're going to use a closed circle. If we have a less than sign, we use an open circle. And if we have a greater than sign, we use an open circle. So with that, let's look at number 1. 1 says x is greater than or equal to 195. So I'm going to look at the sign and notice it says equal to, so I know I'm going to use a closed dot. I locate 195, put a closed dot on 195, and then it says x is greater than. So greater than is to the right. So I'm going to highlight everything because these are all the values that represent x, and x is all the numbers that are greater than 195. Now let's look at number 2. Number 2 says x is greater than 16. So x is greater than is the open circle. So I'm going to go to 16 and I'm going to put an open circle at 16. And it says x represents all the values greater than 16. Again, these would be all the numbers like 17, 18, 19, 20, on and on. So x represents all these numbers to the right of 16. Number 3 says x is greater than or equal to. Again, that's a closed dot. So I could go to -40. I'm going to put a closed dot on -40. And x represents all the numbers larger than that. That's to the right of that. And again, this is x. Now try number 4 and number 5. So pause the video, try it on your own, and then come back and check your answer. Okay, so number 4, x is greater than 120. And that's a closed dot because of the half the equal sign. So I'm going to put a closed dot on 120. And then x is greater than, so I'm going to color in or shade in all the numbers, values to the right of that. And that represents x. Number 5 says x is greater than or equal to another closed dot, another closed circle on 18. And again, it's to the right, all the values to the right. Now let's practice reading the inequality from the number line and then writing the inequality to represent what is written on the number line. If we look at the example, we can see that there's a closed dot on the 19, and then x represents all the numbers to the left. And we know that left rhymes with left or sounds like left. So that means we're here in that first number line x, we're comparing x and 19. And we said x is to the left, therefore it is less than, and because we see the closed dot, it has an equal sign underneath it. So this inequality on the number line is x is less than or equal to 19. So on number 1, let's take a look. First we want to see, okay, so we have an open dot, and then we see that we're comparing x and -1. And x represents all the numbers to the left, which is less. So x is less than -1. Number 2, here we're looking first at the dot and saying, oh, it is a closed dot. And here we're comparing x and -60. And because x is this line and it's to the right of -60, that means that x is greater than or equal to -60. Now try number 3 and 4 on your own and check back with the video and see if you are correct. Okay, so number 3 says that x is to the right of 30, and I can see that it's an open circle, so I'm comparing x and 30. And since it's to the right, it's greater than 30, and there's no it's an open circle, so there's no equal sign. Number 4, I'm comparing x and -60. X is to the right of 60, so x is greater than -60.